According to the Small Business Association's Office of Advocacy, 70% of small businesses in America are owned and operated by just one person. For Alex Jewett, she's on a mission to ensure that small business owners all across America and the world operate with transparency, take pride in their ownership, and embrace the digital age to advance their business. She's the CEO and founder of Right Left Agency, the digital marketing agency, which helps small businesses hack into the system using transparency, ownership, and agency. She joined me this week to discuss how she's providing a pathway forward for small businesses to flourish and thrive. I'm Kevin McShad. Let's have this conversation. Jewett began her remarks and kicked off our conversation by reflecting upon her love and passion for the intersection of digital marketing, storytelling, and small business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my agency about 6 years ago now, and it really grew out of a passion for wanting to create freedom of time and location for myself and my team members, being passionate about seeing small businesses grow, and also wanting to have an outlet for creative expression. There's a lot of creativity involved in marketing, and I think that's what keeps it exciting for me. Um, and I think that a lot of the challenges that young people experience around their careers in modern day kind of stem from the fact that we have all of this incredible technology. And we're experiencing the burdens of it, but not so much the benefits of it. We're staring at a screen all day. We're constantly plugged in. We're getting information thrown at us 24/7, but we're not utilizing it like we could to free up our time, to free up our location, to have freedom of geography. And I wanted to be able to travel and work from anywhere. So that was kind of the first thing that made me interested in going out on my own and starting something. And then I think the other disconnect that often happens is that we're doing all of this work, and if we're working for a larger business, we often don't see the direct impact of the stuff that we're doing. But when you're working with a small business, you make it an optimization to their ad campaign, and it could be life changing for that small business owner. And you can see the results and how powerful they can be for someone's life and their business. So that was kind of the second component for me. And so those things coming together are what make me excited to go to work every day.
Absolutely, and I know that you're the CEO and founder of Right to Left Agency, where you help small business owners sort of hack the system and get more familiar with transparency and ownership. So I'm wondering if you could tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're an international remote team. We've got people in the Philippines, Bangladesh, UK, New Zealand, here in the States. And we're built to be kind of a scrappy, nimble internal marketing department, and jump in, be ready to test a bunch of things, quickly make changes, and scale what's working. So One of the issues I think with this standard agency model is that it doesn't tend to serve small businesses well, because it's kind of like, okay, here's this massive strategy. We're going to charge you these big upfront setup fees, and changing direction on a dime can be very challenging, especially when you're working with a huge agency team and decisions have to go through many people. And so we kind of built the agency to be able to start up quickly without any fees. We don't hold any long-term contracts, and we're meant to be able to take in the amazing data that you get from digital marketing on a daily basis and make changes on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you've been in the field for nearly a decade now, and you've worked with a whole swath of entrepreneurs, from small business owners to people that have run successful companies. So I'm curious to ask you about emerging trends that you've seen sort of evolve since you've been in the industry.
Yeah, so I think one thing that comes to mind immediately is how the gig economy has completely transformed business and made a lot of things affordable for small businesses that weren't previously. We can go on a site like Fiverr and have an explainer video made for a client for $50 that, 10 years ago would have cost $5,000. Um, and this was kind of just starting to really blossom as I was starting my agency. And we've really ridden that wave and been able to utilize incredible talent all over the planet for our clients. And I think the other thing that's been really cool is to see how much more values driven consumers and their purchase decisions have grown over the last decade. Um, People are really voting with their wallets. Our brands have to um, be politically and socially conscious oftentimes, and we have to translate the brand values into their marketing. But I think that's a really cool way that change is happening in the world now that it maybe wasn't 10 years ago.
And Alex, you brought up the political and social culture. So I'm curious to get your opinion on how the current political climate in America has affected the way Americans do business and make money as small business owners as well.
Yeah, so I think conventionally the wisdom was you just stay out of politics if you're a business, and we're finding that our brands can't do that anymore. That if you don't make a statement on a topic, you're making a statement. And so we work with our brands when there are political and social things happening in the world to determine where their stance is going to be and how they're going to express that to consumers. And that's actually a really fun and interesting part of the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alex, tell me about small business revitalization, because COVID-19 has affected a lot of things. You brought up the gig economy earlier, and it certainly affected that segment of the small business community as well. So I'm curious to ask you about small business revitalization and how business owners can emerge stronger after COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that generally the businesses that we're working with are emerging stronger after COVID. Consumer spending is really strong. People are champing at the bit to get back to entertainment, travel, purchasing things, having in-person experiences. So that's been really cool to see. We work with a large retail chain called Pinspiration, and they were hit really hard by the pandemic, and we definitely had to adapt very quickly. And I think that's the kind of the name of the game when it comes to changes, even ones as big as COVID, is just being ready to change and try new things. Um, and that's where being a smaller agency that's kind of built to be nimble can be helpful. But we immediately launched online courses for them. We marketed pickup kits for customers to take crafts home instead of crafting in our craft studios. We developed online communities for our customers and for our franchisees. And so I think those things customers really appreciated when we were there to support them in different ways during hard times. And they were even more willing to come back into the studio and do crafting in person after it was over. So I think adapting um, is really important, as always.
Yeah, absolutely. Changing times because time is money in business, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep.
And Alex, I'm also wondering your thoughts on how we get more people with disabilities infused into the small marketplace because, you know, uh, entrepreneurship is a good way for people with disabilities to sort of express themselves and make money at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the amazing thing about digital marketing is that it doesn't require much to set up. With a very small budget, you can create a website, create content on your iPhone, develop graphics on sites like Canva, create a WordPress blog. And there's so many different ways to engage with very low setup costs that I think it opens up it kind of democratizes the ability to start a business for anyone.
Absolutely, and you've brought up a small budget. So my next question is for anyone watching or listening to this who's a small business owner that doesn't have a heck of a lot of money. I'm wondering if you can give them a couple of tips on how to effectively use digital marketing and websites to get their brand or business out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think with a small budget, focusing on content is the most important thing that you can do. Content is king. It's a little bit cliche, but it's true. And what we're finding in our digital advertising for clients is that oftentimes it's the content that was filmed on someone's iPhone or at home or a self-filmed video testimonial that's outperforming professionally created content because consumers want to see something that's real that they can relate to, that's maybe other customers or other people just like them. They don't relate to big businesses the way that they do small businesses and individuals. And so I think there's an amazing opportunity to, set up a tripod and film something educating your customers, write blog posts that are answering customer questions. All of that is free or extremely inexpensive, but can have a huge impact on your search engine optimization, building a community, social media optimization, etc.
Absolutely. And Alex, I know that for many small business owners, sort of reinventing themselves and the value of human connection is very important uh, in terms of making connections. So I'm curious for you personally, where does your passion for human connection come from?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think growing up and seeing my parents as entrepreneurs and the communities that they built was really inspiring for me. Both my parents have started and run businesses my whole life, and seeing how a group of people with all different backgrounds can come together and create something that is greater than the sum of all the parts is pretty amazing to me. And I think that's kind of the magical thing about business is that you can pull people together and create something that generates income, that sustains people's lifestyles, gives them a paycheck, and creates amazing things in the world, just with people like you and me.
Yeah, and Alex, I know that you have had some exposure to Canada with your time in Toronto, and as you know, I live here in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So tell me about your experiences in Canada and what you like about our country there, Alex.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I live in New York. And when I first came to Toronto to visit my best childhood friend who lives up there, I remember I was leaving the airport. I got in a taxi and I went into the city and I went to the wrong location and it started pouring rain. And I have all my bags and I'm wearing not a heavy enough jacket. And this woman crossed the street with an umbrella and walked me to my destination with her umbrella so that I wouldn't get wet. And my brain, living in New York, immediately goes to, what is she doing? Is she going to pickpocket me? Am I going to get robbed? But she was just being nice. And I think that there definitely is more of a culture of just having conversations with people, helping out a neighbor, being a good friend, compared to New York, which the people are incredible. I love the culture of New York, but it's much more like fast paced, get out of my way, climbing the ladder kind of energy. So I love that about Toronto.
Absolutely. And I know that you live in New York, and I know that there are some unique advantages for being a New Yorker. So outside of the office, what do you like to do for fun and sort of reconnect with yourself?
Absolutely. My husband and I both love to travel, so we do a lot of that when we're not working. Even within the local area, we've taken a lot of road trips down the coast or go to upstate New York. And we spend a ton of time with family. My sister also lives in New York, which is awesome. Our families are out in California, but we go and visit them quite a bit. And family is really my number one. It's where my deepest fulfillment comes from and my deepest sense of community. And we're really lucky to have some amazing families.
Yeah, Alex, I've never been to New York, so uh, we have to plan a trip for me to come up there to see you and
I would love that.
connect in person. And tell me, what are some good food spots I need to check out once I visit New York?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. You got to try Prince Street Pizza. My husband's a huge pizza guy, and that's his favorite in the world. There's some amazing sushi places. We actually went to one last night called Ume here in Williamsburg. And you take off your shoes and you sit down on the floor. It's an omakase experience. That was awesome. Birds of a Feather for Chinese food in Williamsburg is one of the best. So, yeah.
I'm taking virtual notes here, Alex, so I'll hit those up next time I'm in New York. But tell me, finally, how do you think you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined?
Yeah, I think I would love to be remembered as being generous with my time and my resources, both personally and professionally. So I hope that my legacy is that I freely shared my time and resources and skills with those around me, and that it resulted in some amazing collaborations and businesses and relationships.
Fantastic. And tell me, Alex, finally, just if people wanted to get connected with you, what's the best way they can get that done?
You can email me at alex@rightleftagency.com, or you can check out our agency at rightleftagency.com and hit us up on the contact form there.
Absolutely. Well, Alex, I have to tell you, I feel smarter than when I started this conversation. So your time, energy, and efforts on my behalf are most appreciated. And I want to thank you for joining me this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kevin. This was really fun.